It's time to unholster those wallets and prepare those purses. That's right, the holiday season is nearly upon us, and today's episode is a big, meaty one. Today I'm going to share the official Bitewing Games 2021 Holiday Board Game Gift Guide. We have prepared a massive lineup of game recommendations just for you. Whether you're shopping for a casual board gamer, your significant other, a hobbyist board gamer, or just looking for something to stuff your stockings or entertain your holiday party, we have the perfect suggestions for you. My name is Nick Murray, and this is the Bitewing Games podcast. Tis the season to buy more board games for your friends and family, and maybe even treat yourself. Selecting the perfect gift can often be a nightmare before Christmas, but worry not, Bitewing Games is here to guide you to some of the hottest games of the year for casual and hobbyist gamer alike. Our selection criteria for this guide includes the following. The games have been tried, tested, and approved by us and or trusted critics. Because let's be honest, I don't know how trustworthy our critical opinions are. Another criteria is that the games are generally available to purchase. Finally, we won't recommend anything from our past holiday gift guides, but we still fully endorse those previous guides. So if you need even more recommendations, then check out our previous 2020 holiday board game gift guide. You can find it in blog post form at bitewinggames.com. Now, before we start, for your information, we received no financial compensation, sponsorship, or advertisement money for this guide or these recommendations. The following are simply games we genuinely believe are great holiday gifts. So why even make this guide? Well, for one, we love to see this hobby grow. It means more games, gamers, and fun for everyone. Second, if you find value in our content, then we'd love to have you join our Bitewing Games newsletter. We use our newsletter to send regular updates regarding our latest content, such as this gift guide, and publications such as our Criminal Capers collection of card games. If you'd like to join us, then head over to bitewinggames.com/subscribe. Anyway, let's dive into our fun. Our 2021 Holiday Board Game Gift Guide is split into sections for your skipping convenience. It's going to be included in the description of this episode. These sections are divided as such: gifts for the casual board gamer, gifts for your significant other, stocking stuffer games, or in other words, games that are small and cheap, perfect games for your holiday party, and finally, gifts for the hobbyist board gamer. So let's start out with that first category, gifts for the casual board gamer. Many people enjoy a good board or card game, but they don't have the time or energy to invest in long, complicated games. The following games all play in roughly an hour or less and feature easy rules with stellar gameplay, perfect for any friends or family. Our first recommendation on this list is going to be Kabuto Sumo, which is $34 MSRP. If you're at all familiar with coin-pushing games found at the arcade, then you already understand the core mechanism of Kabuto Sumo. In this game, players are beetle wrestlers who try to push opponents out of the ring to win. This box is filled with chunky wooden discs and tokens of various shapes and sizes, and it features some of the most refreshing gameplay in years. You can check out my full impressions of the game in a recent podcast episode. This one features a kid-friendly mode and competitive mode for adults, and works great from 2 to 4 players. In short, you can't go wrong with making this Christmas a Kabuto Christmas. Now for Kabuto Sumo and any of the games that we recommend here in today's episode, if you're wondering where's the best place for me to buy this, then I suggest you go to our website and look at the blog post of our holiday board game gift guide. Each game at the very end of its description has links specifically to the publisher's website where you can support them directly and buy their game, as well as to online retailers who may be selling the game at a cheaper price or cheaper shipping for those of you who are looking for that. The next recommended gift for your casual gamer is none other than Equinox, which has an MSRP of $40. Equinox is a fantastic card game from Reiner Knizia with a lovely presentation from artist Chris Quilliams. For those who aren't aware, Reiner Knizia is the very same designer who invented our Criminal Capers collection of card games, which recently funded on Kickstarter and we will be releasing next spring. Here in Equinox, players place bets on which mystical creatures they believe will last until the end of the game, and then they must play their cards wisely to keep their chosen champions alive. There is loads of replayability to be enjoyed here, as each session is crammed with cutthroat player interaction and uses only 8 of the 14 creatures and their unique abilities. You can learn more about why we love this game in my First Impressions episode from a few months back featuring Equinox. Game number 3 for your casual gaming gift receiver is going to be Hibachi, which MSRPs at a surprisingly low $30. If you've ever been looking to become a master chef, here is your big chance. Like Kabuto Sumo, Hibachi features a mix of strategy and dexterity. This unique blend of mechanisms is one that I found to be quite engaging. 2 to 4 players take turns tossing their poker chips onto the large board, and they can buy or sell ingredients that their chips land on. You can even aim for the smaller bonus spaces or knock opponent discs away from your coveted spots. A precise flick of the wrist helps, but you'll also need to play smart to manage your money wisely and outbid your competition. All this is part of a race to complete 3 recipes first and win the game. It's delightfully unique, it's deliciously challenging, it's Hibachi. Now let's talk about a classic game which has been around for several years. This one is Ethnos, which MSRPs at $40, but I think you can get it for a lot cheaper, so keep an eye out for that. Don't let the box art scare you off on this one, okay? Ethnos actually shares a lot in common with legendary family game Ticket to Ride. I admit that the visuals of this game could be more attractive and inviting, but what if I told you that I've introduced this game to dozens of people? Friends, family, gamers, non-gamers, you name it, and all have loved it. It's true. There is a reason that Ethnos is in my top 50 games of all time. If you're wanting to learn more about this game, you can actually head over to our YouTube channel, Bitewing Games, and let Kyle share with you why this game rocks in his 7-minute board game review of Ethnos, titled, Is Ethnos Fun? Finally, we're going to talk about another classic game which is readily available to purchase. That is Chinatown, which MSRPs at $45. I love a good game of trading and negotiation, and Chinatown is one of the best of this genre. Like Ethnos, this classic is a massive crowd pleaser. It features dead simple rules, wonderfully memorable player interactions, and satisfyingly clever possibilities. The magic of Chinatown lies in the fact that you can trade anything however you like. Property, tiles, money, favors, you name it. There is something so raw and satisfying about turning your worthless assets into profitable deals. But at the end of the day, the players with the most money earned from lucrative deals and businesses is the ultimate winner. This one is ranked number 10 in my recent Top 50 Board Games of All Time episode, and it becomes an instant favorite for nearly everyone I show it to. Enough said. Well, that was the last recommendation for games for your casual gamer. Let's move on to the next section, gifts for your significant other. Want to give a game that says I love you? How about a game that you can enjoy together over and over again? We've got you covered with these recommendations, starting with My City, which MSRPs at $35. If you follow Bitewing Games and the content we put out, then you understand that we are physically incapable of recommending My City enough. This masterclass polyomino legacy game from Reiner Knizia is featured in my top 50 games list, our recent podcast discussion of games we've been playing, my interview with designer Reiner Knizia himself, my top 10 Reiner Knizia games article, my deep dive article into what makes games refreshingly replayable, my Battle of the Polyomino Games article, which, spoilers, My City won that, my top 15 board games of 2020 list, and our top 10 family games podcast episode. You get the picture. Now for a warning, don't let that massive list trick you into setting your expectations 300 miles high. The truth is that My City is simply an easy to recommend game. It is especially good for couples and families. My wife and I loved playing through it at 2 players, and this one scales all the way up to 4. I can think of few holiday activities better than cozying up to a table with some hot cocoa, a loved one, and My City. Now, if you're looking for something even newer, I recommend you check out Riftforce, which MSRPs at $30. Riftforce is one of the few games on this list that I personally have not tried yet, but that's only because it hasn't been released to retail in the US. Actually, at the time of this recording, it just got barely released, so I'm expecting it to show up on my doorstep soon. But worry not, this one hits stores in October, so you'll have plenty of time to pick it up, and is available directly from the publisher today. Now, I pre-ordered my copy because Riftforce is already released in Europe and pleasing consumers and critics alike. It even earned itself a spot on my most anticipated games of 2021 Part 2 list. This game takes some inspiration from the likes of Battle Line, also known as Schotten Totten, and Air, Land, and Sea, where two players duel across multiple rift spaces as they play cards onto their side of the rift. The interesting wrinkle here is that players assemble their own deck of 4 asymmetric guilds from the 10 that come in the box. Crafting and executing the right combo at the right time will be key to victory in this simple, strategic, family-friendly 30-minute card game. My third recommendation for your significant other is going to be Royal Visit, which MSRPs at $25. Who doesn't like a good tug-of-war? Royal Visit is a gorgeous new version of a classic Reiner Knizia tug-of-war game where 2 competing players attract guards, a jester, a wizard, and the king himself toward their end of the board by playing cards of a matching type. Each figure has its own interesting traits and abilities, and the ultimate goal is to get the king onto your castle. We are big fans of this game at my house. We even played it again last week, twice. I dive into the nitty-gritty details of Royal Visit with my first impressions episode from a few months ago. Next, let's talk about Summoner Wars 2nd Edition, which MSRPs at $50. If asymmetric dice combat chess is more your gift receiver style, then Summoner Wars fits the bill. The 2nd edition of this much-beloved game is a more polished and perfected version that released this year. Play cards onto the grid-based board, slide them from one space to the next, line up to attack your opponent's cards, and bring down their summoner using your unique abilities. My first impressions of this game have shown that this is absolutely the way to go for those who prefer meaty yet streamlined dueling. Finally, we're going to wrap up this section of games for your significant other with one of the hottest and newest games that is not yet available to purchase, but it will be before the holiday season, and that is Sieze, Seize Rome in 20 minutes, which MSRPs at roughly $30, maybe less once it makes it over here to the US. Here we have another hotly anticipated soon-to-be-released game that is indeed titled Caesar! Seize Rome in 20 minutes! This one comes at us from one of my favorite designers, namely Paolo Mori, designer of Dogs of War, Ethnos, previously mentioned, and Blitzkrieg. Blitzkrieg is an especially notable one here, as Caesar is the spiritual sibling to this critically acclaimed game. And the real title of Blitzkrieg is Blitzkrieg! World War II in 20 minutes. You see the resemblance there? Now listen here, I know what some of you are thinking. I have zero interest in war games. I get it. I was thinking the same thing when I first encountered Blitzkrieg. But even more than being a war game, Blitzkrieg is a tactical tug-of-war game, much like Royal Visit. And Caesar takes much of the same DNA of Blitzkrieg and turns it into an area majority game. The elegance of these games lies within their turn-by-turn structure. Simply place a tile onto the board from your 3 tile options that are hidden behind your screen, resolve the effects, and draw another tile from your bag. This formula makes for one of the most tense and engaging 20 minutes out there. It's why Blitzkrieg is also in my top 50 games of all time. Now let's talk about a fun little section called Stocking Stuffer Gifts. As the old saying goes, the stockings were hung by the chimney with care, with hopes that small games would be placed in there. These ones are both conveniently compact and blessedly affordable. And they pack a punch. First stocking stuffer recommendation is Durian, which MSRPs at $23. You can never go wrong with a stocking stuffer gift from publisher Oink Games. Their tiny, charming rectangular boxes were practically born to be nestled in stockings and hung by the chimney with care. Durian is one of the best new Oink game releases of recent years, about taking fruity orders and calling the grumpy gorilla boss on your coworkers. It's simple, it's fast, and it's hilarious. We've enjoyed it so much that it even made my top 15 games of 2020 list. Our next tiny cheap game is called Schotten Totten 2. Whether you're a big fan of the original Schotten Totten, also known as Battle Line, or have never heard these wacky words until today, Schotten Totten 2 is an excellent little 2-player game that should be on your radar. Much like its predecessor, Schotten Totten 2 is all about playing chicken against the player across the table from you by forming poker-style sets of cards from your hand, namely runs, sets, sums, etc. The sequel is unique in that the competing players have asymmetric roles, objectives, and abilities. The defender must protect their wall and keep the attacker from breaking through. You can go back to my old First Impressions episode of this game, where I have a lot of good things to say about it. Next, let's talk about an even cheaper game in an even thinner box, Illusion for $13. This one comes from Wolfgang Warsch, the designer of many popular games including Wavelength, Quacks of Quedlinburg, The Mind, and That's Pretty Clever. Illusion is a tense game of arranging a growing row of cards in sequential order by the amount of one color shown on each card. The moment you feel that another player has added a card to the wrong spot, you can use your turn to challenge the sequence and reveal the backs of the cards that quantify how much area each color takes up. If your challenge is correct, then the previous player takes a penalty. If your challenge is incorrect, then you take the penalty. I can personally vouch for this as a great stocking stuffer of optical illusions because it's exactly what I received and enjoyed last Christmas. I'm a huge fan of its captivating core, brilliant rules, and dramatic reveals. While the illusion has been around for a few years, this next one is brand spanking new. That's The Crew Mission Deep Sea, which retails for $15. We here at Bitewing Games are massive fans of The Crew, The Quest for Planet 9. You can find both my written review on our website and Kyle's video review on YouTube of this cooperative trick-taking masterpiece. Mission Deep Sea is the standalone sequel to our 2020 darling, and word on the street is that this one is even better. You'll be able to get a whole lot of game out of this $15 box when it hits stores this fall. We can't wait to try it. Our last stocking stuffer game recommendation is Parade, which retails for $20. Now, Kyle and I very recently had a podcast discussion about this quirky little Alice in Wonderland themed card game called Parade. It features gorgeous art, tough decisions, and elegant gameplay. You'll be adding a card from your hand to the back of the parade and strategizing which colors to avoid and which colors to claim. Much like the other suggestions in this category, this one is a treasure gem on my card game shelf. And while that's 5 stocking stuffer games that we highly recommend you check out, we're going to throw in a little stocking stuffer bonus here, namely X-Trayz from Game Trayz, which retail for $2.32 each, although you can buy them in bulk for cheaper. If your gift receiver has any bitty games that they play frequently, these trays are perfect for convenient storage and speedy organization. It's always satisfying when a setup merely consists of removing game trays from the box and opening the lid. I love to fit these trays into my favorite game boxes, including Concordia for the wood resources, Dogs of War for the cardboard tokens, and Yellow and Yangtze for the point cubes. For games where I can't fit the trays inside, I usually have some spare ones on hand to make for a cleaner table presence during play. So there's a bunch of stocking stuffer ideas for you. Let's move on to perfect games for your holiday party. While people can never be replaced as the true life of the party, a good game can help take that party to the next level. Here are our suggestions to help make your party fun and memorable, starting with Don't Get Got, which retails at $22. Imagine a game where each player, up to 8 total, is given a wallet containing 6 secret missions they must complete. These missions challenge players to creatively trick each other without drawing suspicion. You see, Don't Get Got is one metagame that can be played in the background during a party, a game night, a holiday get-together, you name it. If someone calls you out on your mission attempt, then you fail it. But you've got 6 objectives total, and the first person to complete 3 wins. I personally can't wait to try this game of harmless and hilarious pranks. I'm just waiting for the right occasion. Our next recommendation is Skull for $20. Alongside our own upcoming Soda Smugglers, Skull is one of my favorite bluffing games thanks to its pure, tense gameplay for 3 to 6 players. It even earned itself a spot in my top 10 filler games list on our website, alongside the previously mentioned Parade and The Crew. The rules to Skull are as follows. Either add a coaster to your own stack face down, or place a bid for how many coasters you think you can flip over without revealing a skull. Raising the bid sends out a signal to your opponents that your stack is safe and free of deadly skulls. But is it a false signal? If others call your bluff and leave you high and dry as the winning bidder, then your planted bluffing bomb can backfire on you. It's loud, funny, and fantastic, just like any good party game should be. Let's talk about another game that released this year. This one is Bristol 1350, which retails at $25. Bristol 1350 is a gorgeous game of wagon racing and Black Plague dodging. That's quite the combo. And it comes from our friends over at Facade Games. This is the 4th game in their Dark City series featuring magnetic book boxes and social deduction in a grim period of history that allows 2 to 9 players. Now, I had the chance to play and test Bristol 1350 back when it was a budding prototype, and the final production certainly packs a punch. Now for the oddball recommendation among these party games, my next recommendation is none other than Sidereal Confluence Remastered Edition, which retails at $70. I've got to be honest with you here, this one is absolutely not suited for your average holiday party. Sidereal Confluence is best for a tabletop gaming party, where everyone comes expecting a meaty, strategic board game experience. But boy, this one makes for a heck of an experience. Like Chinatown, previously recommended, players will dive deep into simultaneous, real-time negotiation of anything and everything on the table. Only here, things are much more sprawling and complicated. Sidereal Confluence plays with up to 9 people, which is why it landed a spot on our holiday party board game recommendations. Just make sure you have an extra large table if you're gathering 9 to play. We've got 2 more party game recommendations here. Next one is Decrypto for $23. Word clue games such as the mega hit Codenames are all the rage these days, and for good reason. They're usually social and casual, and they allow for creative personalities to spill into the gameplay. Decrypto is one such game that is among our top 10 family games, and absolutely worthy of any party game collection. 2 teams face off over multiple rounds as one player from each team crafts a code of clues that is easy enough for their team to decipher, yet too tricky for their rivals to decode. I've played this game on over a dozen different occasions and still find it to be a killer experience. It even currently reigns supreme as the #1 ranked party game on Board Game Geek. So if you still haven't tried this one out, what are you waiting for? It's so cheap and it's so good. For those of you who have tried Decrypto, it's been around a while, it's very popular, and are looking for something new, I recommend Rorschach, which is $30. Not 2 weeks ago, I had the pleasure of trying Rorschach, the new family-friendly party game from Capstone Games and Deep Print Games. I'll be sharing my full first impressions of this amusing little box next month, but here's a little teaser for now. In Rorschach, players are divided into 2 teams, and each team takes turns offering up a test subject who must connect 3 words to 3 inkblot images. This is performed by placing tokens face down onto the image cards that match the tokens which designate each topic card. Then the group must guess which image is the test subject connected to which words. At first, the inkblot images almost look roughly the same, merely a symmetrical smudge of black ink with some corners here or some squiggles there. But thanks to the 3 face-up word cards which players are forced to use, the mind begins to fill in the blanks with details and silhouettes and settings that transform an incoherent mess into a tangible topic. And it is within the cycle of these inkblot images starting out seemingly meaningless, irrelevant, and unrelated, but slowly coming to life with the help of one's imagination that we find the magic of Rorschach. So there's some great party games that I highly recommend to you. Let's move on to the final section of this guide, namely gifts for the hobbyist board gamer. This is the meatiest section of all. No holiday board game gift guide is complete without solid recommendations for hobbyist gamers. If your gift receiver knows their Langs from their Knizias, their worker placements from their tableau builders, or if one of their favorite things to read is rulebooks, then these are the games for them. Starting with the meaty and delicious Oath, Chronicles of Empire, and Exile, which retails for $120. Much like Cole Worley's other designs, namely Root and Pax Pamir, Oath is a game that is best suited for 4 or 5 gamers who love diving deep into a single design to explore its intricacies. If your gift receiver is one who never spends more than a couple plays on the latest hotness, then I suggest you skip on to the next game. With the right group, Oath is a fascinating exploration of political powers, dynasties, and historiography. Players will spend sessions as Chancellor, citizens, and or exiles, competing to gain control of the kingdom through various objectives. Beyond the stunning production and whimsical artwork on display, every decision made by the players has innovative ripple effects that influence the current game state as well as future plays. After only a few plays, this one has quickly become one of my all-time favorite games. Next, let's talk about a significantly more affordable and approachable game, but it's a classic, Hansa Teutonica Big Box, which retails for $50. I mean, it's better than $120. Now, despite its drab appearance, this game resides among the very best Euros, thanks to its quick tempo and poignant player interaction. It's so good that when I ranked my top board game releases of 2020, Hansa Teutonica Big Box was #1. On the surface, you'll be placing out your merchants and establishing trading posts in the form of cubes and discs. But beneath it all, you'll be trying to outfox your opponents and take advantage of every little opportunity they give you to become the world's greatest trader. This big box version provides plenty to explore with more game board maps that provide their own interesting wrinkles to the compelling core. Next game for your hobbyist board gamer is The Search for Planet X, which retails for $45. Perhaps your gamer prefers puzzle deduction over sprawling campaigns or classic Euros. Well then, the Search for Planet X might just be perfect for them. Here, you'll use the help of a phone app to dole out clues to players in a smooth, flawless system where you can only blame yourself for any deductive errors. Another benefit to this game is that each player can start at different difficulty levels, with more or less clues, thereby evening the playing field against more experienced players. It's a fun puzzle to crack that comes highly recommended by yours truly. Speaking of space games, my next recommendation for Hobbyist board gamers is Beyond the Sun, which retails for $85. If there's any game on this entire list that is least likely to disappoint your gamer, honestly, it's Beyond the Sun. That's because this game has been the most popular new release I've shown to all of my gaming friends. This futuristic sci-fi game lets players develop technologies, colonize planets, and build an incredibly satisfying economic engine. It was number 15 on my top games of 2020 list back when I made that, but since making that list, it has only gotten better with each play, and an updated version of that list would rank Beyond the Sun much, much higher. Between the collaborative tech track and aggressive planet board, there is something here for everyone. And for those of you looking for a brand new game, even newer than Oath, I'm going to recommend Iberian Gauge for $40. It's hard to resist the allure of a good box cover, and artist Ian O'Toole knows how to bring out the best in a Cube Rails game. Iberian Gauge comes to us hot off the assembly line from the creators of Irish Gauge, illustrator O'Toole, designer Amabel Holland, and publisher Capstone Games. For those of you who aren't familiar, Cube Rails games tend to feature simple rules. I'm talking only one sheet of paper. Shared incentives, stock opportunities, and network building goodness. Iberian Gauge features an interesting balance of railroad investments and expenditures, where the money you pay for stock becomes that company's budget for expansion. The mix of strategy and tactics within this Iron Rail series, Iberian Gauge being the third in this series, has never failed to engage me. This one will surely make for a slim and slick gift. Well, there you have it, 25 stellar game recommendations, plus some bonus game trays, that will make for perfect holiday gifts or events. As I mentioned at the start of this episode, if you're wondering where to buy these games, go check out the blog post version of this episode at bitewinggames.com. All the links are there under each game. And if you're sitting here at the end of this very long, meaty episode thinking to yourself, I didn't hear a single recommendation that's going to work for my gift receiver, then first of all, I'm so sorry, I failed you. And secondly, let me know. You can shoot us a direct message through Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or go to our contact page at bitewinggames.com and tell me, hey, I need a recommendation for this kind of person, and I promise you I will help you find a great one. And for those of you who are regular followers or listeners of our content, what are some games that we have never talked about that you think we'll actually really like? I want to hear your recommendations for my holiday board game gift guide. What should I be buying myself for Christmas? Of course, that's assuming I have the restraint to wait until Christmas to actually start opening and playing those games. Anyway, thank you for joining today's episode. My name is Nick Murray, and you've been listening to the Bitewing Games podcast.